The previous video got stopped because of I don't know what reason. So we'll start with the disadvantages again of the wells. Now the disadvantages, they sometimes go dry during the drought period. That means they are not if they're not deep enough, and it can only irrigate a smaller area because you have to use some beast of burden, or you have to carry the water from the well to the areas which needs irrigation. Of course, it causes burden to the daft animals, and if the rate of evaporation in that area is very high, the water will evaporate at a much faster rate, and therefore the mineral content, the salt content of the water will increase, and therefore the water will turn brackish or salty, and then again that water will become useless. It cannot be given to the plant, neither can it be used for domestic purposes. And the regions where these wells can be, and I'm specifically talking about the lined and the unlined wells here, I haven't started with the tube wells as yet. So, and the regions where this kind of facility is seen majorly is northern plains in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Bihar, and West Bengal. Now the third part of the well, that is the tube well, which is basically the boring done deep inside and the water is brought up with the electricity. We're going to start off with that. Now, tube wells is, it's more or less like a boring, as most of us have seen it in Dehradun. And it is brought, the water is brought up with the help of electricity, and then it is made to go into very small, tiny canals, and it reaches the areas which needs irrigation. So the conditions which are required before we even think of getting a tube well dug or bored is there should be large amount of water present under the surface of the earth, and the electricity of that region should not be very expensive because it requires a lot of electric current to get this tube well running. And when you are spending so much of money, the land should be fertile enough in order to compensate the expenditure which is incurred by boring the tube well. And the climate should not be very extreme. That means neither too hot nor too cold, because if it is too hot, the pipes might expand and the water pressure might go down, and if it is too cold, the water will freeze inside the pipe and therefore the tube well will not work. So we need to have a moderate type of climate for this facility. So it can irrigate large areas because it is being brought up by the electric current, and therefore there is no strain on animals. And since they go very deep inside the surface of the earth, so they do not dry up during the drought periods, and it is very deep, water does not get polluted because it is not open, so the water will not get polluted as it can happen in wells and tanks. Now the disadvantages is it is very expensive, no doubts, cannot be set up in remote areas as cheap electric supply is not available, and of course it needs large land to be compensated. And the regions, of course, are alluvial plains of Bihar, Punjab, and Haryana. Now, all these methods which we spoke about till now, they are all conventional methods of irrigation. Conventional, by conventional methods of irrigation mean which have been used for so many years and which are prevalent since ancient times, like wells and tanks and canals. They have been there for ages now, and but they have some disadvantages. That is, they occupy large areas, can cause waterlogging, wastage of water is also there, and increases the salinity of the soil. So to avoid all these problems, new methods have come up, and some modern methods which are being used recently is the sprinkler irrigation. We've seen it in our own school. If you the near the bus bay, if you've seen, they have pipes attached to all over that area, the landscape area, and there you see the sprinkler giving the water to the plants. So that's the sprinkler irrigation. Now the thing is, the water does not get wasted. It doesn't get wasted by evaporation, it doesn't get wasted by waterlogging, so that's a very effective method. But of course it can only be given to a smaller area. Then we have a drip irrigation. Now drip irrigation is where the water is reaching the roots. That means it is wetting the subsoil. The topsoil might not get wet, so therefore no loss of water by evaporation. The roots are getting the water by this method, drop by drop, and that is why it is called as a drip irrigation method. Then the next one is the center pivot. Here we have a outlay of pipes all over the cultivated land, and then we have holes in between, and the water just travels through those pipes and gives it to the entire land, agricultural land. And same is the case with the sub or seep irrigation, where the water is put inside the ground, so that water does not get wasted by evaporation. So these are certain methods which are used by modern people. Of course they are very expensive, most of them. So but advantages is it is very efficient, it has a very high efficiency rate, no wastage of water through evaporation, there is no wastage of land because this does not occupy any land, whatever land you require for cultivation is available to you. And water distribution is uniform, that means all plants get the same amount of water. It's not that some plants get more and the other gets less and there's water logging on the land. Does not happen. Then the disadvantage, of course, it is very expensive and it is not suitable for every crop because every crop might not require that much amount of water, or every crop might not require water at all times. So if the crop does not require much water or at all times, then these kind of methods are a wastage of time, money and effort in those places. So it is very selective areas and selective crops for which these methods can be utilized. So just go through these points in your book also and get back to me in case you have any difficulties whatsoever about these points.